Obaseki as our guest. Dr. Pedro Obaseki is the CEO, ACC Broadcast Multimedia, President at Pedro Media Campaign, former MD and CEO at Direct Communications PLC, owners of Power and Africa Independent Television, AIT, an alumnus of the Premier University of Ibadan, and of course, the great Uniben. He is the Director of Publicity of Obaseki Media Campaign. This evening, he will be speaking on Governor Obaseki's policies and its impact on the economy of Edo State. My name is Habiba Oyege Oyarekwa. Welcome you to the program. Dr. Obaseki, you're welcome to the program.
Oyege. Anytime I hear that name, all my tentacles go the ginger.
Thank you.
No, who are you?
Thank you.
I'm pleased to be here.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, what are the most striking qualities that have distinguished the administration in Edo State of Governor Obaseki in the over 20 years of this state's creation?
Governor Obaseki is like a dream that you thought was going to start off as a nightmare. So, and it is the cutting edge is the fact that Godwin has been able to, via his administration, bring back a human face to governance within the Edo space. Secondly, his modus is like taking away the bad straw in the paradigm of governance and replacing it. You know, it's like having a car running on terrible plugs and having a bad carburetor, and then you replace with a fuel injector and replace it with brand new plugs. So what people don't really understand, particularly those who seem to be opposed against him, who are opposed to him, is simply because they are persons who have been brewed and stewed in the very problem that has made Nigeria a near failing or a failed state. That is, government is a big fat cow, a big huge elephant, where everybody sucks, takes away. But Godwin is trying to tell us, not only what can Edo do for you, what can you do for Edo? And the only way that can be possible is to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, to create a new paradigm in the education ethos. Because if you train a child properly, you see the Bible says, teach a child the way to go. And when he grows up, he won't depart from it. And so he focused on basic and post-primary education, because that is the bedrock for building the future of the nation. That is the tripod for which a better society will be built. He focused on it, focused on health, because health is wealth, and you can only create wealth for the living. Only the living can work. And then he created an enabling environment, cut out all the unnecessary bureaucracies that will encumbrance business. And Edo State is breathing again. So without our knowing it, you know, when you are suffering, when a man is in chains from the day he was born, he would think chains in perpetuity is the way life should be. So when you take the chains away, what you will have done is create a new vista. And those who are used to the slavery, the chainery that used to be what obtained in Edo State, the total agberoism that had taken over our space, where the worst of us, the very worst, the very wretched of our earth, have been the ones who have lorded it over the rest and maybe the best of us. So Godwin has totally wiped the slate clean. So Edo State is like a tableau. I think in Latin they say it's a tabula rasa, a clean slate, where we are all now beginning to engrave ourselves. And by the time we look back in another 30 years, you will realize that once upon a time, from the November 12th, the year of our Lord 2016, Edo was a child reborn, an Abiku that had been born again, you know, and that is what we are going through. So all things must, as the Bible says, pass away, and Edo State will be regenerated anew. That is what he means when he says we are making Edo great again.
Now, from all that you have said so far, is that, in your opinion, the most ambitious and striking projects of the Obaseki-led administration?
No, I didn't want to talk about a single, in that opening statement, I wasn't talking about any singular project.
Well, because you were talking about education.
An ethos.
Okay, now.
You know, Obaseki now, well, I'm an Obaseki and I'm happy that I am. But Obaseki now is turning out to be an ideology, a way of life, a new way of doing things. So all the projects he is doing are premised on this new way of life.
Now let's zero in on 3.
Yes.
What are the 3 most ambitious and striking projects of this Obaseki-led administration?
If I say 3, I will be doing him with
I just want us to zero in on 3.
I want to look at the pillars.
Okay.
Yes, 3 is good.
Good.
But basic is education.
Okay.
Edo Best. Edo Best. And the fact that they even called it Edo Best was an acronym that has lived up to his name. Edo Basic Education Sector Transformation. At this point, you are looking at a situation whereby children, right from preschool, primary school, are being taught to do things in a whole new way. The entire teaching apparatus has changed. There is nothing wrong in building new schools or roofing them, and then maybe you can provide chairs for kids to sit. But the environment doesn't make the school. The schooling, I don't think, I went to school and I got schooled. So it is the schooling that I think is the biggest. And that is an intangible part of Godwin's manifesto. Intangible, but it is life and everlasting. Because I'm here. So long as my brains work properly, I don't think I will look for what to eat. So he is creating a new army, a new brigade of children who can confront the challenges of this century we are in. And an upwardly mobile, technological savvy, driven base. That will now create the right workforce, because when you are conscious of the repercussions of a crime, which education brings, you are most likely not to commit it. So when you are educated enough, you will understand that being a serial brigand in the public space, taking whips and beating poor women to line, either via an Akugbe venture that had ventured to take our people down, or beating people and creating a new creating an ethos where to go to school was a crime, where the worst of us rule the best of us, where the best thing you can claim to be is to be an area boy somewhere in Amaba, or in Ugbeoko, or in Iriri, selling same land to 7 people and beating all of them into line. But when you are educated, you are conscious of the repercussion of that crime. And that is what Godwin, I think, in my own opinion. People like skyscrapers, infrastructure, but the real thing is the human structure, the human capital building, the building of the human capacity. It is that human capacity that changed China from being the basket case of the old Oriental into today the world's second largest economy. Is that same mindset, that same rejigging, that same making sure that the right pegs are in the right holes, the right education is given to our children, that has changed Malaysia that came to borrow from us, or Indonesia that came to borrow our palm seeds. Just here when I was in primary school in the time of Obemude at Naifo, today they are now the world largest net exporters of the palm oil that grow up by default in my backyard. So if you have a child who is well educated, who knows, who is aware, because when you know knowledge, say you get the knowledge, when you know, life becomes easy. You won't be at the vagrant of joining secret courts because you know the repercussion of that action. No. So I think Godwin's biggest single, all-encompassing landmark legacy will be building the minds of our children, outside of the fact that I will come to the other sections where you will find that the other tide is symbiotic. One flows into the other. And that is what Godwin has designed for our people. And I don't think it's by accident. Okay,
you have just mentioned one, which is education.
Yes.
Now, what is the second one?
The second one will be creating an enabling environment for business to thrive. This one is a huge thing. It's like Edo, empowerment, development, opportunities. That's what Godwin has done. Now, by using that last part of it, you know, he has created a new vista. Let me start slowly. In Edo State, if you look at economics, when you look at what are the basic factors of production? Land is the fixed asset in production. Now, land has been a recurring decimal in Edo State. In fact, that our younger ones, our brothers and sisters abroad, we have the largest per capita diaspora community from tropical Africa within our space. Now, these persons contribute close to billions of dollars in terms of remittances back home. Edo State once upon a time was the only state in Nigeria, maybe in the whole of Africa, that had Western Union having its own dedicated office outside of the banks and working even on Sundays. So, to the extent that, I'm just saying, when you walk into some parts of Italy, when you walk into Klagenfurt in Austria, when you walk into Padova in Italy, or you walk into certain parts of London, into Bakken, or you go to places like Thamesmead, all you find are Edo people. Is it Spain? Is it the United States, particularly in the East Coast? Edo people. Now, these persons want to bring back home. They want to remit back home. They buy one land, and they cannot calibrate properly what the fate of that land will be in under 3 years, because it could have been taken over by some CDA, community development, which was actually association, which was actually community destruction associations. But Godwin stopped all that. Now you can map where you are. You can get CFOs in record time.
Through the Edo GIS.
Yeah, through your Edo GIS. Now you have the new mapping. You have the new maps. Now outside of that, that is the first thing in production. So in development, in infrastructure building, land is key. Godwin has removed all those bottlenecks and encumbrances and created a new vista, a new way of doing business. Now let's move forward. No technological development can take place without power. And power led to the first industrial revolution at the tail end of the 19th century in the United Kingdom, with the creation of steam, of the steam power, and later hydro and the rest. Today, Godwin did not rediscover Edo State, but he pointed and itemized that which has made Edo State unique. We are not just the heartbeat of Nigeria by default. We actually straddle a transportation value chain. We straddle the length and breadth, the heart of the transportation value chain in Nigeria. So you cannot traverse from the east of Nigeria to the west of Nigeria, from the deep south of Nigeria to the north of Nigeria. You cannot move from Lagos to Abuja without passing Langpes or Ibilo. You must pass a part of Edo State. Now, as God will have it, God placed us also at the epicenter of all the gas networks in Nigeria. But Nigerians many people don't know that, but Godwin did know that. And it takes a leadership premised on hope to be able to see that. And as a result of that, he has decided to now, to build an economy, to industrialize the people, to move forward in the technology trajectory. You must be able to create power. Let's look at the Azura. It's kicked off. A few months ago, Osioma power plant. And I hear there are going to be 22 nodos. Only the first nodo is gone now with 55 megawatts. Now, it is easier for you to do business. So if you take away the cost of fuel, the cost of independent individual power generation by the average Nigerian businessman, it almost eats up to 25 to 30% of his capital exposure. Now, if you use even a small, I better pass my neighbor, or all those small 5 kV petrol, for you to run overnight, you will spend 3,000 naira.
Now, what is the third one? What is the third one?
The third one?
Yes.
The third one is the one that I think many people are happy about.
And that is?
He has improved the quality of life and given meaning to workmanship. I don't want to start talking about Idu Road, Ita Road. Now government work to Tar Road. Now my Papa Road, now government road. Good. But Godwin looked at another thing. We live in a state that once upon a time was a prima civil service state. a state that had produced the best set crop of civil servants in this country, that has a whole litany of pensioners, that had the best schools, teachers, workers, persons who were happy to be engaged in work, you know, where their take-home pay no longer took them home. And that was when Godwin came. I still remember during the last debate, a young man, Shehu Kimbaloye, was the one asking the questions at that debate. And the one question that was difficult for Godwin to run away from was the payment of salaries. I remember they asked him pointedly again about local government salaries. And as at that time, it was 18 months unpaid salaries. I remember that ITV and other networks carried a man, whether Mr. Nabule or something, who died standing at the pension lines at Ring Road. That was in early 2016. And the opposition used that as a reference point to refer the very insensitive nature of the government of the day. We had a government of the day that had little respect for humans, for the value of life, because we were inundated daily by brigands who under one pseudonym of a Kabaka, who under one pseudonym of a molested people in their gross on the very streets of Benin in broad daylight with government backing. I remember, I mean, we shouldn't forget. So if you imagine Edo State without Godwin, you will understand that the Edo State without Godwin was a state where the chief executive of the state, in the very glare of a white agbada wearing chief of staff, Igodo, stood there, and the governor then wearing khaki trousers and white shoes. The picture is engraved in my hand, in my head. It will never go away. And that woman kneeling down wearing purple or violet purple camisole, blouse, begging, I am a widow, I am a widow. And my governor then, God forbid, replied, if you be widow, uncle, go and die. But Godwin brought a new paradigm in all this.
But we have it on record that
yes.
He later apologized to the woman.
No.
Yes.
Let me explain something, please, on a very serious note.
Yes.
A wife beater is a wife beater. That you beat your wife daily and apologize later does not remove the toga of wife beater. At the level of a 62, 63-year-old man who had led Nigerian labor for years, who had risen to become executive governor of a state, to look down on a poor, weather-beaten, poor woman and say, go and die and apologize later? I mean, governance is not very religious. I can understand your religiosity, say, okay, he's been forgiven.
Yeah.
But for you to think that and come into the public space, and if we did not cry out, if someone was not humane enough to have recorded that thing, that woman would have been forgotten on the dung heap of our yesterday. It is because the public cried out, because people came out, because all of a sudden his popularity ratings dipped. So to salvage his already battered, bruised ego, he decided to apologize. You know, it's just like somebody when don't take paraga. You know, you do bad thing, finish. They consider because of the paraga. But I will quote Olado Timi, it is what is in the head when there is no wine in the head that is said by the mouth when there is wine in the head. It is the real state of being of that man that he displayed at that point. Reflex action. If you be with the uncle, go and die. No.
I also read that in Things Fall Apart.
Yes.
Yes. It is what is in the mind that comes out when there is wine in the head. All right, it is what is in the mind that comes out where there is wine in the head. We're chatting with Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, the Director of Publicity of Obaseki Media Campaign team, and we're transmitting live from the PDP Digital Media Team studio. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
No man is God, Obaseki or Governor, forward never, backward never, let's go further together.
My name is Amin Amawusa, a coach in Edo State Sports Commission. Take a look at the rebuilt Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium and you will see that there is a radical shift from the tradition of the past where government intervention was cosmetic. I am overwhelmed by the drastic transformation of this sports arena to an international stadium with state-of-the-art Olympic standard facilities. This new edifice has greatly motivated we the coaches and athletes in the Sports Commission. With this radical transformation in the sports sector, it is clear why the federal government picked Edo to host the National Sports Festival with several other international sports activities lined up.
Whoever says Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium go better like this na another Obaseki wonder. Abeg make una clap for our wait and see Governor Godwin Obaseki o.
To continuity. Dogba, Obaseki, continue your work. You do Ogbe Stadium renovation, even we hit the best. Plenty achievement for your time. Our life will done better. Obaseki Ashaibu, now them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki, Dogba, you know you we want to. For the things what you do for it, may you be winner. Make we put PDP.
The opposition candidate plagiarized the simple agenda from a document you had earlier shared in the public domain. Now, what do you have to say to this, and are you willing to seek redress for this grievous infraction, if true?
If true?
Yes.
Records don't lie, so it's not whether it's true. It is whether...
Tell us.
Well, I want to state clearly that while setting up the Edo People's Assembly in 2014, we had adopted the simple agenda as our payoff, and we developed a concept. Mr. Isaiamu was very aware because he was also one of our patrons. That is the truth. In fact, the Edo People's Assembly, which we had put together then, registered with the federal government and the Edo State government, was meant as a platform to help engineer participation by persons in Edo State in their political space. So based on that, my friends who were there on that day were there. In July 2015, I launched my aborted bid for the governorship of Edo State in the United Kingdom at a town hall meeting held at the Barking Hotel at the Barking Town Centre in London. And that was where I unveiled my security, infrastructure, manpower development, public-private partnership, leadership by example, and employment and education for Edo youths, which was the simple. That was the acronym. And it is good to know that this was also put in the public domain on the 3rd of August and later again on the 15th of August on Ben TV in the United Kingdom.
What year? This is 2015.
That was about 3 or 4 months before Pastor Isaiamu launched his campaign. And it was after in June, when he won the nomination of the PDP to run in the gubernatorial elections, that he came and launched his simple agenda. And
are you talking about June 2020 now?
2016.
2016.
Yes, 2016.
Okay.
So he ran in his failed bid in 2016, also on that simple agenda. But the reason I'm a little hamstrung and quiet, you know, you cannot be the bird, you cannot be Chichidodo, the Ghanaian proverbial bird that hates shit. Sorry, pardon my French, and still eats the maggot from shit. In 2016, I was one of the...
I would rather you use the word feces.
Feces, yes.
Yes.
Yes. You know, I actually quoted Wole Soyinka as, you know, and in that 2016, it's also in the public domain, I supported his bid. You know, we have to understand the reasons why. I can come to that later if I have the time. So it is a little difficult for me to have joined him to sell that agenda in 2016 and now take him to court in 2020. But he knows He knows the origin of the simple agenda. And everybody who is close to me and those who worked on my campaign know the origin of the simple agenda. It actually took the intervention of the Esama of Benin, who called me to his house in London, in North London, to talk over me ceding and leaving the simple agenda for Sageze Eyamo. And I don't want to, for the sake of respect for that man, Esama Sir Gabriel Sawari Benedion, that conversation took place in the presence of his PA called Ernest. I will not, and another man called Dr. Alista Shoyede, I will not want to drag this continuously in the public domain.
Thank you.
But like Governor said, Governor Obaseki said, I don't, since he has said that and I believe, he said governance is not a simple agenda. It's a very serious business.
Now, the Obaseki-led administration has launched its mega movement manifesto.
Yes.
Good. How is this document relevant in the times? I mean, how is this document relevant to the times that we are now? And what are the key proponents of the manifesto that should interest Edo people in the state and, of course, in the diaspora?
I think making the mega manifesto is actually a manifesto in progress. It's actually a movement in transition because it's already happening. That is the truth. So documenting it there is maybe, for me, I think that manifesto is more for posterity to show how or why the workings of government came to be. It's like a roadmap that has already started. A roadmap that will beacon. You know, when you buy a piece of land, you know, you have beacons. You know,
so
to
you're
show
saying it's for short, medium, and long term?
Long terms. They are so benchmarked. In fact, when I read his intro in that manifesto, he also pointed out that he actually visioned Edo in another 30 years. And where will Edo be? And it takes only the trappings of a visionary who can, you know, like a falconer, who can now say, oh, this vision, the whole Edo people, this will be our mission. Because it takes one man to dream. Two people cannot dream the same dream at the same time with the same imagery. Yeah. But here, that dream has become our mega position to make Edo people great again, making Edo State great again. Now, let me go straight to some of the things there. You can look at infrastructure and infrastructural development. Look at the truncation of our infrastructural space since the time of Brigadier Dr. Samuel Osagbo-Ogbemudia. Look at it now, or look at it as it was 4 years ago. It was like in a state of arrested development. Look at Palm House. I remember as a kid, Gowon came to Edo State. It came to Bendel State, Midwest State. Bendel, Midwest State. It was the Midwest State. And we were all brought out. They are just open ring road. Ring road in those days used to be a public field, not ring road. Like how to line the roads leading to the aerodrome. That's why you have aerodrome closed. You know, and not the way the airport is now. We just have one single building, and we're all waving for General Gowon.
The flag.
The flag. We were holding two flags. One was a Nigerian flag, the other one was a Togolese flag. I still remember the song we used to sing in Parliament. It was terrible. If I say it now, people won't like it. Welcome, President Yadema and General Gowon Obiaruao. You know, I won't have what that means, you know. But when I look at it, with the size of the Palm House pointing east, skywards, like huge empty carcasses, we were kids. We used to run across that space into Obilaka. We were kids. Then the whole of GRA ended at Boundary Road. That was the boundary. You know, we used to call it New Site, you know. So in those days, when I look at it today and I see what Godwin has done, it is not the physical structure that touches me. It is what it does to my psyche as an Edo man. That right in the center of Edo right in the center of Oredo, less than 800 to 1,000
6,000 meters from the Oba Palace gates, from Ring Road. We have these 4 giant spires pointing skywards, dilapidated, and 2 of them absolutely in state of perpetual incompleteness. And Nigerians must know that Bermuda left power in July 1975 when he was overthrown by Murtala Mohammed. In 2020, 45 years later, that same building now adorns the Edo skyscraper. The Edo skyscraper. Like beautiful, beautiful spires. That is a mega thing. I'm trying to put physical things now that will be mega
to the
mega agenda. Now, in those days when we played football a few years ago, when we played technical college, they go to one side of it. If you want to defecate, you defecate there because it was a forgotten land. That school that used to be that school. I remember because of that school, my uncle is late now, Joe Ehiwe. He went to that school, went to Canada, came back, and helped set up a similar school by the now Bender State government of Ambosali in a place called Togo, about 5 or 10 kilometers outside Ughelli. I lived with him, and it was his dream to build Ogo Technical College to be a replica of Benin Tech. But the Benin Tech that was there when Godwin came was a derelict, desolate remembrance of what used to be. And that man turned that place into something akin to an MIT, to a Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Now, let's leave that as it is. Agriculture. I have a farm now, proudly so, in Ekoi, about 2 kilometers down from Adua, on the bypass, after Ohio.
How come?
Because Godwin told me we got a farm. And I remember, as a young boy, as a grandson of Cromwell Agbonfo Obaseki, the first main ranger of the Benin Kingdom. They would take us then as little boys sitting on the Vauxhall Victor and drive into a place they call Temboga. And down Temboga on the right side, they had lump factories that they called Tomoplos. You get my point? And then you see Benin men tap rubber, create a new ecosystem for technology, tires, rubber, things are working, timber and plywood, AT&P, Plymouth. And I remember, here we sit in the very center, in the epicenter of the equatorial rainforest, where palm trees grow by default, where plantains grow by default. Plantains sustain the entire economy of the Caribbeans. That is why we call them banana republics.
Banana republics.
But here, Udoji came in 1976. Edo people abandoned the real reason why the white man came to the Oye rivers. The Oye rivers start from Benin River. But the oil wasn't crude oil. It was palm oil.
Did they know that?
I hope our people know. And that is what drove the Industrial Revolution in Europe. Godwin has taken us back to that very doorstep. So a young boy whose father and grandfather tapped rubber at Tomoplos. I was growing up, my uncle, Godwin's grandfather, had a huge, Governor Obaseki had a huge ranch. Then my uncle, Ayamekwe, had another one at Abudu. And we used to call them Emiledo, that is Benin cow. Big, stout, heavy set. But now today, the people who were the breadbasket of the nation have become the beggarly beggars of the nation. And Godwin is readdressing that. Because when Victor Wifo sang that song, Nigerians didn't know what it meant. Roba dene idaraba. Roba dene idaraba. The rubber has fallen. Rubber or dene, those of you who buy rubber, idaraba. Now Godwin is taking us back to those glory days. Because the first thing God has said it, if you are doing economics, what are the essentials of life? Food, clothing, and shelter. Food is prime on that chain. And we, as the ones who God has blessed from Opela to Ologbo, with the best per capita rainfall in Nigeria, with the best landscape in Nigeria, with multiple rivers flowing in Nigeria, we have the best We have a little of oil, a lot of gas, a lot of limestone. The whole of the Kukuruku belt sits on the longest strain of limestone in Nigeria. And that is the same limestone that turned the Kano man, where there is no limestone, into the richest Africa. The richest black man on planet Earth, or for cement. But it sits on our land. So we need a governor who understands all this and harnesses them. Okay. That is why the mega, as far as I'm concerned, that one that is written on paper is just but a roadmap. The mega agenda is in my head. The mega agenda is being replicated by the things God is doing in the social space. Let me give you an example. Another part of that, look at the education sector. That one trips me. I walk into Payne Primary School in Upper Mission. As a young boy who grew up in that area, we used to play ball playing for Odion Bombers. Payne Primary School was so bad that the football field was filled up with stones. My friends are aware, those who grew up with us. And then people use those spaces to defecate. Today, I walk into Payne Primary School. What are the wrong come off of my eye?
Why?
Because I go there, Payne Primary School now has grassed lawns. Forget the book. Children now have Jankolova. Jankolova. You know, those things that young people grow up on street. With the one that says, when we reach this junction. I grew up playing football at St. Joseph, Owa Primary School. Now go to Owa Primary School. Godwin has turned Owa Primary School, the football field, into a mini stadium. He has done that same at Western Boys High School and 4 other locations across Edo State. He has done that at the School of Health Technology on Dumes Road. And I ask myself, wake up and smell the coffee. Look at Ogbe Stadium. Ogbe Stadium, years ago, I remember Ogbe Hard Court, where the best of tennis players in Nigeria, in the world, come to Nigeria to play tournament. Just the way they go to play Wimbledon. That was the first time as young boys from Unity School, they took us down there to see Nduka Odizo. They used to call him the Duke of Wimbledon, playing at Ogbe Hard Court. But now, Ogbe Stadium, now Samuel Ogbe Media Stadium, was like a palace image of his former self. But Godwin has turned that into the signature of our eyes. So we don't like good things. Now, I never knew that we could link Iriri in Airport Road and drive out Asaple Road. God bless Godwin. Let's be frank with ourselves.
Thank you. Now,
and all in 3 years and a half. And all within the time of using 2 years of that to be fought by a godfather who told us we should never allow godfathers.
All right. Now, I want us to come to the basics of this electioneering period now.
Yes.
Now, if we must, bring it to the public's knowledge, I don't know, what do you think has been the troubling rhetorics of violence that, that has pervaded this election cycle so far?
May I translate them so that Ben Punogo here. The same.
No, you can speak Benin and then translate, okay. As long as you translate.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now come.
It's a lizard, if you don't see anything to do with mama, you throw away a melon. Because you can't get time in the bed. These are just tactics of persons who are bereft of ideas. I feel that all these rhetorics, which is rhetorics of violence, you get my point?
Yes.
It's like a rhythm of violence. It's like they've turned it into a new melody. And they hope to be able to use that to stop Edo people from going to the polls. Unfortunately, Edo people, let me advise my young boy, God bless, or two boys. Edo people have decided. We don't decide. So absolutely nothing rhetorical. You see, I sit down sometimes, I appear on TV sometimes, and we are being dragged into this mode of bantering words with those persons. And I look at those who always they bring forward to banter with me. They are not even from our state. Because there is nothing that a really conscientious man of Edo origin, whether you are Esa, whether you are Esako, whether you are Akoko Edo, or Owa, or Bini, or Igbanke, there is none of us who will conscientiously see good and try to paint it black. So the only way is to resort to vile propaganda, low-level